hidden architecture of the universe, there exists a rhythm not often seen but always felt. It is the silent drumbeat beneath the chaos, the vibration beneath every spoken word, every gaze, every exchange of intention. It is energy, not merely the physical force of atoms and particles, but the essence that binds spirit to flesh, thought to action, and presence to purpose. Within this subtle current, strong women have always walked like high priestesses over sacred ground, navigating a terrain many fail to even perceive. These are not merely women of will, but women of wisdom, those who have learned through trial and transcendence that their energy is their most sacred currency, and so they do not spend it lightly. To protect one's energy is to step into sovereignty. It is to recognize that not every battle requires a sword. Not every argument deserves your voice, and not every person is entitled to your light. A strong woman understands that boundaries are not walls, but rivers, fluid, alive, and clear in their course. She is not hardened by her strength, rather she is softened in the right places, guarded in others, and unshakably aware of the treasure she carries within. Her power lies not in domination, but in discernment. Like the moon that chooses when to reveal her fullness and when to cloak herself in shadow, the strong woman knows that timing, presence, and silence are as potent as any action. And so, as we embark on this journey into the heart of what it means to guard one's energy like a sacred flame, understand that this is no mere self-help advice dressed in modern language. What we are uncovering is ancient, echoes of temple teachings whispered in modern skins, encoded in the myths of goddesses and the quiet strength of grandmothers who smiled while the world misunderstood them. To protect one's energy is to live not in reaction, but in resonance with one's higher self. It is the art of spiritual Aikido redirecting what comes to you, not out of fear, but from the deep knowing that your energy is not a battlefield, but a sanctuary. Before we go further, let this be your invitation. Stay with me until the end of this video. Because what we're about to unlock isn't just a philosophy. It's a key, perhaps the key, to reclaiming the authority of your own existence. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel, because we're not merely exchanging information here. We're stepping into initiation. Each video is a doorway, and this one might just change the way you walk through the world. The journey of a strong woman is not one of constant defense, but of deliberate embodiment. She learns to protect her energy not because she is under siege, but because she finally understands what she's worth. She no longer pours herself into empty cups, nor apologizes for refilling her own. She does not explain her intuition, nor does she trade her peace for the comfort of others. Her strength is a frequency, a field she carries, and only those who can meet it with honor are allowed to remain. We live in a time where energy is harvested as much as oil, where attention is the new currency, and where emotional labor is demanded like a toll at every gate. In such a world, to protect one's energy is a revolutionary act. It is a stance against the entropy of the external and a return to the luminous interior. It is saying no without guilt, detaching without resentment, and choosing rest not as laziness, but as ritual. The strong woman becomes a steward of her own soul, no longer driven by validation, but by vibration. This exploration will take us beyond the surface of the phrase, protecting your energy. We will uncover the energetic mirrors embedded in every relationship, the spiritual contracts disguised as daily interactions, and the mythic forces that guide the feminine archetype through the labyrinth of modern life. We will draw from mysticism, from lived experience, from symbols and shadows. Because this is not about tips, it is about transformation. So here we begin with a single truth wrapped in cosmic simplicity. A strong woman knows her energy is sacred. And she knows too that her power lies not in how loudly she fights to keep it, but in how clearly she remembers that it was never theirs to take in the first place. To understand the art of protecting one's energy, especially as practiced by strong women, we must dive not into definitions but into dimensions, realms where language becomes felt, experience, and every word is a doorway to deeper knowing. This is not a guidebook, but a decoding. And what we're decoding is not simply a behavior, but a metaphysical stance, a way of existing in a world that pulls, drains, demands, and devours, and doing so with unwavering grace. At the core of this inner mastery lies discernment, a soul sense, far beyond intellect, that tells a woman when a room is heavy with projection, when a smile conceals hunger, and when silence is safer than explanation. Discernment is the compass of the energetically aware. It is not paranoia, nor suspicion, but a refined listening, a vibrational fluency that understands not every frequency deserves resonance. Strong women do not respond to everything because they feel the cost of every exchange. Their awareness is their economy, and they spend it with reverence. Another unshakable pillar is boundaries, but not as commonly misunderstood. For strong women, boundaries are not defenses built from past pain. They are declarations of sacredness, like rings of salt around a temple. They are less about exclusion and more about alignment. A strong woman does not shut the world out. She simply creates a field around her being that only truth can enter. Her no is not rejection, it is refinement. Her withdrawal is not avoidance. It is wisdom that knows when to offer presence and when to return it to herself. And then there is the theme of energetic sovereignty, perhaps the most elusive, yet vital. It is the understanding that your energy is not a response, but a force in its own right. It is the frequency of someone who does not need to match a room to belong in it. She brings the storm or the stillness, the fire or the void, depending not on the outside, but on the integrity of her own intention. Energetic sovereignty means your emotions are yours to master, not theirs to manipulate. It means no longer outsourcing your peace, your joy, or your identity to any person, institution, or pattern. Peel back the veils further, and you encounter the deeper truth behind all this. Life is energetic theatre. Every conversation is a transaction. Every glance a contract, every interaction an echo. Strong women know this because they've been actors, an audience, villains and saints. They've learned that the energy you allow is the story you continue. And so, they become editors of their own script, cutting scenes that no longer fit, refusing roles that silence their essence, and rewriting endings where they rise. Not because the world let them, but because they chose to. There is also the dimension of ancestral memory, pulsing through the veins of every strong woman like a hidden inheritance. Many do not know why they feel tired in certain spaces, why some compliments feel like theft, why certain men's praise feels like possession. But the body remembers, the soul remembers. She remembers the times when her energy was harvested without consent, when her light was dimmed to fit a fragile world. She remembers, and so she protects. Not just herself, but her lineage. Every boundary is a healing spell, cast backwards through bloodlines. All of this exists within a paradox that only those who have suffered and awakened can hold. That true strength is gentle, and true protection is quiet. Strong women do not need to prove. Their energy speaks in tones the unconscious cannot hear, but still obeys. They are not aggressive, but they are immovable. They are not loud, but they are unmistakable. They do not need to be seen to be felt. In their presence, time slows. In their absence, things fall apart. They are the keepers of invisible order, and woven through all of this is a final, subtle thread: the illusion of guilt. Many women, especially those awakening to their energetic power, first encounter this phantom emotion: the guilt of saying no, the guilt of not saving others, the guilt of resting, of asking, of leaving, of simply being. But strong women pierce this illusion like light through fog. They realize as guilt is often just the residue of a system that benefited from their exhaustion. And so they choose clarity over compliance, healing over habit, truth over tradition. This, then, is not a simple mindset shift. It is an awakening, a remembering of one's power, and a reclamation of one's field. To protect one's energy is to say, I remember who I am, and I will no longer participate in my own diminishment. There are stories older than language, etched not on paper, but in the marrow of our bones. These stories are not told, they are remembered, stirred by moments of clarity, by the silent knowledge that something deeper is at play. When we speak of strong women protecting their energy, we are not just speaking of habits or choices, we are invoking archetypes, cosmic roles played across lifetimes and timelines. And to truly grasp this mystery, we must descend into the symbolic realm, where truths are wrapped in myth and metaphors are mirrors. Imagine a woman standing at the edge of a great forest. This forest is thick with noise, voices of expectation, of comparison, of history. The trees whisper things: be nice, stay quiet, don't outshine, give more, be less. She walks carefully, her feet silent, but her mind loud. She enters, believing she must give something of herself to pass through each layer. And for a time, she does. She offers her joy here, her time there, her truth somewhere deeper still. Until she reaches the center, and there she finds a mirror, ancient and cracked, but glowing with a light that feels like her own heartbeat. In that moment, she sees not what the world has told her she is, but what she always was before the world had a say. A sovereign of subtle realms, a guardian of life force, not a servant, but a source. And so she turns back, not to flee, but to gather. She returns through the forest, not giving this time, but reclaiming. She picks up her voice, her boundaries, her flame. When she emerges, the forest has not changed, but she has. And from that moment on, she walks not with permission, but with presence. This is the journey of the strong woman who protects her energy. Not a flight from the world, but a retrieval of self from the world's illusions. There is another story, often overlooked in its simplicity. It is the tale of the candle and the wind. In a dark village, every night was long, and every soul held a tiny candle, passed down from generations. These candles were said to hold a sacred flame, the essence of clarity, purpose, and connection. But each day, people rushed into the streets with their candles exposed. They chased after validation, arguments, lovers who blew too hard, or crowds that dim their glow just by being near. Slowly, most candles flickered to nothing. But in one small home, on the edge of the village, a woman sat quietly. She had built a glass lantern, not to hide her flame, but to guard it. She walked slowly. She chose her company. She lit others' candles only when they asked, and only when hers burned bright enough to spare the flame. Many mocked her stillness, but when the storms came, only her candle remained. And in the darkness that followed, it was she who relit the village, not because she owed them, but because her flame had never belonged to them. This is the paradox of protecting your energy. The more you guard it, the more you have to give, authentically, sustainably, divinely. Let us also remember the ancient story of the Serpent Queen, a symbol maligned in patriarchal tales, yet revered in esoteric traditions. The serpent sheds her skin not because she is wounded, but because she is growing. She does not explain her transformation. She does not ask for applause. She coils inward, silent and sovereign, letting what no longer fits fall away. When she reemerges, she is not softer. She is sharper, aligned, renewed. Her energy is not up for debate. It is a frequency that transforms the very ground she slithers across. To protect one's energy, then, is to know when to shed, and to shed without shame. And finally, there is the cosmic parable of the starlit well. At the center of the universe sits a hidden spring, surrounded by silence. This well, legend says, is the origin of all feminine power, the sacred water from which all intuition, beauty, wisdom, and magnetism flows. But it is guarded by sentinels of stillness, who only allow access to those who approach in reverence. When a strong woman protects her energy, she becomes like that well. Her power is not on tap. It is not taken. It is earned. And those who would drink from her waters must come in truth, with empty hands and quiet hearts. These symbolic stories are not distant myths. They live inside every woman who has felt too tired to speak, too stretched to dream, too drained to even name her own needs. They awaken in the moments she whispers, "No more," when she closes the door, when she stops explaining, when she chooses solitude over spectacle, alignment over attention, depth over display. She becomes the forest, the flame, the serpent, and the well. And in this new mythology, she is not the victim of energy theft. She is the architect of energetic sovereignty. And now we turn from the mythic to the mundane, not to diminish the power of symbols, but to show how they ripple into real lives, real decisions, real moments of clarity in the rush of the modern world. The woman who protects her energy is not floating in some lofty spiritual tower. She is here in the middle of traffic, emails, expectations, and emotional noise. She moves through it all, not untouched, but untethered, grounded not in perfection, but in presence. Her strength is not theoretical. It is practiced, imperfect, but unwavering. In everyday life, protecting energy begins with presence, from the choice to be awake in a world designed to numb. The strong woman recognizes how subtly the leaks begin, not always with dramatic confrontations, but with small, consistent abandonments of self. Agreeing to things she doesn't want to do, staying in conversations long after they've turned to energetic quicksand, absorbing emotions that aren't hers to carry. She learns to feel these moments not as failures, but as calls back home. Each time she feels the tug to overgive, over-explain, or override her intuition, she asks a deeper question. Not what does this person need from me, but what do I need to stay whole? The workplace too becomes a training ground. In environments where hustle is worshipped and burnout is glamorized, the strong woman begins to detach from the myth of constant output. She redefines value, not as how much she produces, but how aligned she feels while doing so. She creates pauses in her day that feel like sacred rituals. 5 minutes of silence before a meeting, a breath before answering the phone, a gentle no where she once said maybe. She begins to move differently, not rushing, but radiating, not explaining, but embodying. Relationships offer the deepest invitations and the hardest lessons. For women conditioned to be emotional caretakers, the impulse to heal, to help, to hold space even when it depletes her is strong. But the strong woman starts to notice a shift. She no longer feels drawn to dynamics that require her to shrink or perform. She releases the belief that her love must be earned by endurance. She stops trying to convince, convert, or coax others into reciprocity. Instead, she becomes magnetic to those who nourish, honor, and elevate her. Not because she demands it, but because she no longer accepts less. In moments of conflict, where old versions of herself might have dissolved to keep the peace, she now holds her center. She speaks with clarity, not cruelty. She lets silence do the heavy lifting. She no longer bargains with her intuition. The days of betraying herself to preserve the illusion of connection are over. Her peace is not up for negotiation. And then there is rest, the revolutionary, restorative choice to unplug not only from devices, but from dynamics that drain. The strong woman protects her energy through spaciousness. She prioritizes stillness not as escape, but as recalibration. She knows that silence is not emptiness. It is the chamber where power is reborn. In the quiet, she returns to herself. She recharges not just physically, but spiritually. Her rest is her protest against the machinery of depletion. Even in social settings, she becomes a master of subtle withdrawal. She no longer stays out of obligation. She no longer entertains energy that feels heavy, competitive, or disingenuous. She creates exits without guilt. She sits near the exits in spirit, always ready to honor the truth over the performance. And when she chooses to engage, it is with her full presence. Because she knows that a protected energy field doesn't mean withholding. It means offering herself only in ways that are whole. Spiritual practices become tuning forks. Meditation, breathwork, prayer, movement, all become less about routine and more about remembrance. Each practice is a recalibration to her core frequency. Not to fix herself, but to feel herself again, beyond the noise. She uses these tools not to escape the world, but to fortify her being within it. They are not accessories, they are anchors. The strong woman is not perfect. She is not immune to guilt, doubt, or fatigue, but she meets these states with awareness. She learns to ask, whose voice is this? Whose expectation? Whose energy am I carrying? And she releases what is not hers with ritual, with breath, with intention. She does not need drama to justify her detachment. Her clarity is enough, and slowly, her life transforms. The people around her rise or fall away. Opportunities shift. Her reality reshapes to match her vibration. She does not force these changes. They happen because her energy no longer vibrates at the level of her former self. She has become a boundary, a mirror, a sanctuary. Her mere presence begins to re-educate those around her. This is the real-world power of protecting your energy. It is not a luxury. It is not selfish. It is sacred maintenance. It is how the strong woman continues, not in exhaustion, but in expansion, not as a martyr, but as a lighthouse. There comes a moment, a still point amid the spinning, when a woman looks around at the life she has built and begins to wonder, what part of this truly honors me? Not what fits, not what others praise, not what pays or pleases, but what honors. This question is not loud. It doesn't arrive with lightning or rage. It slips in like a hush between heartbeats, subtle as the pause between inhale and exhale. And in that moment, something ancient stirs, a remembering, a truth far older than her name. I was not made to be consumed, I was made to radiate. To protect one's energy is, in the end, to remember that everything about you is sacred. Your time, your attention, your intuition, your voice, your silence. None of these are byproducts of survival. They are instruments of design, encoded with wisdom and worth. And if you forget this, the world will gladly name your energy for you. It will drain it, label it, market it, and feed on it. But when you remember, truly remember, that your energy is divine, the world begins to bend. It cannot take what you refuse to give. This remembering is not a single moment. It is a return, again and again, like waves remembering the shore, like breath remembering the body. You will forget. You will offer too much. You will silence your knowing, and then you will come back, softer, sharper, stronger. The act of protecting your energy is not an arrival, but a rhythm. Not perfection, but participation in the divine flow of who you are. This is your sacred rebellion. In a world that rewards self-sacrifice disguised as love, you choose self-respect as a living prayer. In a culture that glorifies busyness, you embody rest as a form of rebellion. In systems that commodify the feminine, you protect your softness like it's gold, because it is. You walk away not to punish, but to preserve. You stop explaining because your clarity no longer requires permission. And you give, not to prove, but because you have enough to spare. You begin to realize something profound, that every time you honor your energy, you teach the universe how to treat you. Your boundaries become blueprints, your discernment a declaration, your peace a magnet for what's meant. And in this way, your very life becomes a temple, not locked, not cold, but radiant. A space where only the aligned may enter. A sanctuary where the divine feminine is not chased but invited, not diminished but witnessed. This journey of reclaiming and protecting your energy is not a trend. It is the return of sacred intelligence to a world that has forgotten how to feel. It is the embodiment of a force that does not need to shout to be sovereign. It is what happens when a woman decides that her life is no longer up for auction, that her light is not here to warm the unworthy, that her soul is not here to be translated, but to be expressed. And so now we close this journey not with a conclusion, but with a call. A flame passed from voice to heart, from screen to soul. You are the keeper of your own field. Guard it like a sacred garden. Let only love pollinate it. Let only truth water it. Let only presence walk its paths. And when the world asks why you are so radiant, so untouchable, so full despite all that has tried to empty you, smile. Because you have remembered the one truth they never wanted you to know. You are the source, and you choose where your light flows. Let this be your initiation, not to armor, but to alignment, not to walls, but to wisdom. Protect your energy, not because you're weak, but because you're finally aware of your worth. You're not too much. You are just no longer willing to be less. And so, if this message found you, may it keep you. May it burn through all that drains you. And may it remind you again and again. A strong woman knows how to protect her energy. And now, so do you.